Hello, I'm here today to go over our lab safety rules for this school year. So as you can see, we're going to be participating in a Pear Deck in class today. So if you need this as a source of review or just for me to kind of talk through the lab safety rules, please feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Do you think do you think it is important to have lab safety rules in the science class? Please explain your answer. So think about it. Why do we have lab safety rules and are they important? There are a number of lab safety rules that you're going to have to follow in this school year. They're all going to be listed and they're all going to have a certain number. But a lot of what we will learn today, I want to say, is common sense. But we still have to go over it legally to make sure that both you and ourselves are safe in a lab setting. So number one, wear lab aprons and safety glasses when instructed. Safety goggles should be worn anytime you're working with an open flame, a chemical substance, or using a mechanical device. Safety aprons should be worn when working with any chemical. Number two, no rough play, running, throwing of any kind will be tolerated. Conduct yourself in a responsible manner at all times. Horseplay, practical jokes, and pranks are dangerous and prohibited. Number two is a rule that many students, if you're not behaving properly, you will be removed from lab. Number three, never work alone in the laboratory. That really won't probably, pertain to you, but it's a kind of an important concept for you to remember. Number four, when first entering the lab, do not touch any of the equipment, chemicals, or any other materials in the lab until you're instructed to do so. This is important because a lot of times you'll be excited about what you see in the back of the classroom on our lab benches, but you're not allowed to touch it. We will have to give you instructions before we begin any sort of lab. Number five, only the books, notebooks, pens, etc., Chromebooks needed for the lab should be in the lab. All other items, backpack, purses, jackets, anything else should not be brought to class. If they are brought to class, they must be left in the designated area, which for you guys is going to be at your lab seat. So we will, as your teachers, tell you explicitly what you need in the back at the lab bench, whether it's a paper and pencil, whether it's a Chromebook, but that's important for you to know. This is a question. It is perfectly acceptable to come into this room at any time of the day and play with chemicals. Hopefully that question is pretty easy for you. Number six, never perform unauthorized experiments. Directions must be followed exactly as stated in the lab handouts or by the teachers. We're going to give you written directions as well as oral directions. And if you're not following those directions, again, you will be removed from lab. Again, our end goal is to keep everyone safe. Shoes must be worn in the laboratory. Sounds silly, but especially when it gets warmer out, that's something to keep in mind. We really should wear closed-toed shoes when participating in a lab. Avoid wearing loose-fitting clothing and remove any dangling jewelry. Number eight, no food or drink is allowed, and especially not chewing gum, which is a district-wide or Delsey Middle School. You shouldn't be chewing gum to begin with, but it's definitely not allowed in science class. Number nine, never drink from laboratory glassware. A lot of times it's a vessel that you can drink from it, or it looks like you could drink from it, but never do that unless instructed. There are a couple labs that we might need to, drink or eat something. Obviously, in those labs, we would give you the okay. Never mix, touch, taste, heat, or inhale chemicals unless you're told to do so. There's something called wafting. Okay, that's how we're going to get an odor if we need to. Okay, this is just a check-in to see how you're doing, see if you follow everything, if you have any questions. Please read the experiment before beginning and note any precautions or hazards described. Make sure that you understand the procedure before beginning the lab. If you don't, you have to ask the teacher, say, I don't understand this part of the lab. Can you reiterate what this part of the lab states, etc. 11, report any spills to the teacher immediately so that they can be cleaned up in the proper manner. Okay, so if anything breaks, anything spills, your first thought should be to say, teacher, whomever's the teacher in your room, that's what you should be, your first thought should be. Number 12, report all accidents to the instructor, no matter how minor. So anything that you think may be a big deal or maybe not a big deal, even something as small as a paper cut, please let us know. Number 13, what are the 3 main safety rules when working with open flames? You got to wear safety goggles anytime there are flames. You're going to tie your long hair back. And then lastly, secure loose clothing. This is really important, especially for many of you guys that wear big sweatshirts. We might ask you to remove them or, roll up your sleeves for that. Okay, so which of the following should not be worn during a laboratory activity? Okay, so 14, 15, and 16, don't use chipped, cracked, or broken glassware, which makes sense. And a lot of times, sometimes it happens. It's not like you're going to get in trouble for it. But if you come across a chipped something, please let us know. We're not going to assume that, you did it, but you can't use that glassware. Okay, it's just not safe. 15 is really important for your Chromebooks. Don't let the electrical cords dangle from the workstation. This can cause you to trip or drag the equipment off the lab bench. Your Chromebooks, a lot of times you charge them. There should be no dangling of cords. They should be charging so that the cords don't get in the way of anything. 16, be sure all gas jets, electrical connections, and water faucets are turned off at the end of the lab period. Okay, so you'll get that little heads up typically at the end of the lab period. If a piece of equipment is not working properly, stop, turn it off, and tell whom? The principal, your lab partner, your best friend in the class, or the teacher. Hopefully you know the answer to that question. Last couple. 17, wash your hands with soap and water before leaving the lab. This is specifically important when you're doing any sort of lab activity. Sanitation is really big. Prevent the spread of germs is really big. So feel free to use the sinks in our classroom whenever you need it. To avoid contamination, never return unused chemicals to their original containers. Unused chemicals should be disposed of properly. Okay, so they were your if you look at 18 total lab safety rules that we're really going to follow. What we're going to talk about real quick next is going to be our safety equipment. So these are things that can be found in our classrooms for safety. So we have an eye wash fountain, emergency safety shower, fire extinguisher, fire blanket, and fire alarm. So this is our first one. This is your eye wash fountain. If there were ever to be some sort of contamination to your eye, there shouldn't be, because you should be wearing goggles if there's ever a risk of that, chemicals in your eyes. But the magic number is 15. You're going to wash your eyes for 15 minutes in the eye wash station. If you have contact lenses, you would take them out. And then you basically roll your eyes around to get all water on all those surfaces so that you can get whatever chemical, whatever splashed into your eyes out. The emergency safety shower is there in the case of a larger chemical spill. And again, you're going to stay there for quite some time to make sure that the chemical is removed. Fire extinguisher, we have one in this classroom specifically. You're going to remove the safety pin and discharge the handle, and then you would spray if there was a fire. Okay, if there was a fire. The fire blanket, that's typically what we're going to use over a fire extinguisher. And that's really just because we want to make sure that, if there is a small fire, we can use a fire blanket because that's easier to contain. Fire alarm, if there is a fire, we would pull the fire alarm. There's one right outside the classroom for that. And there's an emergency gas shutoff valve. And these are just some pictures of them in case you couldn't see them from where you were sitting. But the safety shower, the eye wash station, safety goggles, and then fire extinguisher, fire blanket, and fume hood, which we'll talk about when we do our floor plan. These are 2 questions. What's wrong with this picture based on what we've talked about? And what's wrong with this picture since we've talked? So these are your safety symbols. Okay, pretty obvious. They make it seem obvious so that if you can look at a picture, it will tell you what it means. So your eye hazard, your laboratory apron, and chemical safety or toxic or poison. That's usually what that symbol means. You have a fire hazard. You have a breakage hazard. Any glassware that gets shipped, they always have that, fragile name next to it. Electrical hazard. And then animal safety. Okay, just treating live animals with care or anything, safely in your classroom. Okay, so you're going to draw the symbol to the correct symbol. The last part of this lesson today is on first aid. And first aid, a lot of times small things I can take care of in the classroom, but a lot of times you're going to go to the nurse and Miss Kern is going to take care of you. So in case of a thermal burn, immediately place the burn under cold running water. Greases and oil should not be placed on burned skin. Notify your teacher if you are burned. Again, not going to really have to worry about this year, but in the event that something does happen, you know what to do. This is really important. If you don't feel right, if you feel like you're going to faint, you feel dizzy, you need some fresh air, for whatever the reason may be, you need to let me know. Sometimes you look very pale in your face. I'm going to ask you to sit down. We'll get you a wheelchair. We'll get you to the nurse. But if you don't feel right, you have to let us know. And then lastly, in case of a chemical spill, wash with lots of water and know the location of the safety shower, which we have showed you. Again, magic number for eye wash station is also 15 minutes. So that's a general rule of thumb. And then anything else, in case of minor cuts, you're going to wash your hands, soap and water. Miss Kern will kind of take care of you. I'll send you down to the nurse. Sometimes you just want a Band-Aid and that's fine. But other times you will go to the nurse. Again, when in doubt, tell the teacher. Okay. We are certified. We are the ones that know how to help you. Okay, this is a little video that you can watch, and then hopefully we will get to the Kahoot. So that's going to be kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about. There are also a couple things. There's going to be a lab safety contract that looks like this that you are also going to need to complete as a student. Okay, kind of going over the safety rules, what period, what are you going to do? Do you agree with all of these statements? And if so, then you're going to sign off. Do you have any questions? You're going to type your name and you'll hit submit. And then the other option is we need your parents to also sign off that they are okay with you participating in labs. So very similar form as you can see for your parent/guardian. Okay. There is a floor plan, which I don't know if I have that available that I can show you, but it should be, if I edit it. There should be a floor plan that we're going to be handing out in class so that we can go over what the classroom looks like and, where all the safety equipment is. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your teacher. Otherwise, have a great day and thank you for watching.